We're here at the Game of Thrones studio tour, which is a world-class visitor attraction in Banbridge, Northern Ireland. It's where loads of the scenes were filmed for the hit HBO series. But what you may not know is that this 30-acre site is also ultra-low carbon. It's home to a wildflower meadow. We've got tree planting, we've got a rewilding area, we've got bird boxes, and most recently, it's home to some bat boxes. And to tell me a little bit more about the bat boxes, I'm joined by David Browne, who is the Executive Director of Game of Thrones Studio Tour. David, tell me about the bat boxes and what it means to you. I know you're on a 30-acre biodiversity, low-carbon site, but what does it mean to you?
Well, we're very excited about the bat boxes. I mean, it's something that we've been looking at for some time. We have upcycled materials for bird boxes, we've upcycled materials for our herb garden, and the chance to upcycle some materials from the project build into bat boxes has been terrific. So getting those up, and we know there are bats on site as part of our environmental impact assessment. We were looking at the species of bat and their various feeding patterns and their habitats. So what we want to do is support bats, and by providing these bat boxes on site, we hope to encourage them to thrive on our site.
I know it's something you're very passionate about, but before the Game of Thrones studio tour was here, this was an old linen mill. Is that, you know, I can just imagine that old linen mill being full of bats.
It probably was, and like a lot of older buildings, wildlife would have made those buildings its home, and this site has had a number of different lives, if you like. So it was indeed an old linen mill slash bleach works. It was then a world-class film studio, and now it is a world-class visitor attraction. And so this is its most recent life. But what we want to do along that journey is to enhance the biodiversity on site and to improve really this site and leave it in a better state than we found it.
Can you tell me about the bat activity here on the site?
Well, bats are very solitary by nature. They're out at night, they're incredibly silent, they use echolocation, they're fantastic creatures. So our security staff are well aware of them, that's for sure. And we had Northern Ireland's own Batman here during our environmental impact assessment with all of his ultrasonic detectors and things like that to identify the species and their feeding habitat. Our most recent guest, it was, and again, we're indebted to USPCA for rescuing this lovely creature. The team here named her Minisa after one of the characters in George R.R. Martin's famous books.
Maybe she's starting a theme here. Maybe if we have more of them, you'll have to have...
Oh, we'll have to come up with other names, and I'm sure that the team here will have no problem at all coming up with...
They'll have to have a Game of Thrones theme though, won't
they?
they?
I would imagine that'll feature very heavily, no question about it.
So, Nora, tell me how the USPCA got involved with Game of Thrones Studio Tour.
So the USPCA provides a wildlife service that operates across Northern Ireland. So we have our team of wildlife officers and a wonderful team of wildlife volunteers as well that come to the aid of our wildlife, whether it's in distress, whether it's injured or sick and needs our support and attention. So we got the call from a staff member here, and one of our wonderful volunteers, Natasha, was able to come to the rescue of this beautiful bat.
So what was the next stage then of the rescue of the bat, Nora?
So Natasha came down to the centre. She was able to bring the bat back to our centre in Newry, where we have our own on-site team, vet team. So the vet team did a full health check of the bat. Thankfully, there were no obvious injuries. So after a few days of R&R and a test flight, we were able to release the bat back out into the wild. So thankfully it had a happy ending.
And how important is it for businesses in general to be involved in the conservation of bats?
Yeah, it's really important. We all have a role to play. Bats are such an important part of our ecosystems for pest control, for pollination, and they're an iconic animal, part of our wildlife, so we really want to look after them and look after them well. Bats across the globe are in decline, so we all have a responsibility, businesses, individuals and society at large, so whatever we can do. So the work and the support that the Game of Thrones studio is doing here is so impressive, and we're delighted to be able to help.
Nora, to have a conservation site that's as iconic as Game of Thrones studio tour, what does it mean to the USPCA?
It's fantastic. We are really overwhelmed with how far the Game of Thrones studio tour have gone above and beyond in order to look after our wildlife, not just bats, but our wider wildlife, and we all have a role to play. So we're just so grateful for the support and the help that we're able to provide in order to support our local wildlife here.